Hi, this is John, and today's project is this cute It's a Boy card, featuring a lovable stamped bear, which I've coloured with Distress Inks, and I've also used a simple heart motif in the back with speckled egg from Tim Holtz and Ranger. If you want to see how I do this, please keep watching. Okay, let's get started. So I've got myself a 6-inch square piece of, this is actually multifarious card from Lavinia Stamps, which I'm not really used to using. I normally just use basic watercolour card, but I'm going to try this one and see how it goes. So first thing we're going to do is actually stamp the image. This is a set from Woodware, Clear Magic Singles. This one is called Baby Patch Bear, and it's reference number RFS642, made in the UK. It's a really cute stamp set. You've got the lovely bear image. You've got a little sailing boat, a dummy, a flower, a little heart, and then you've got It's a Girl, It's a Boy. Obviously, you can flex the colour. I'm going to do a boy card. So I'm going to take the bear, and I'm going to take the It's a Boy. And I'm going to use my stamping platform, and I'm going to use some blue ink this time. So I've got my stamping platform. Now I always keep a piece of paper in my stamping platform because it just adds a little bit of extra height as you stamp, and it's also just easier. So I'm going to lay my bear down. I'm going to do this pretty much in the center. Just go for a really basic, simple card. So I'm laying him down. And I've now lost the sentiment, which is really great. What the hell have I done with that? It's a girl. Oh, great. I don't know what I've done with that. Oh, it's actually stuck to the bear. Goodness gracious me. Okay, so bear. It's a girl. I think that wouldn't work with blue. Let's try that a different way. So we're going to use It's a Boy. So I'm going to just do it really simply. I'm going to center the text pretty much underneath the bear. Actually, I could be clever and put It's a Boy in the middle, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm not feeling particularly clever. Right, so that's where I'm going to stamp. Just pressing that down lightly. Lifting that up. Now, if you don't press it too hard, it then doesn't lift your card up underneath and you don't have to reposition it. So that's a little tip. Just press it down lightly, because then when you flip it over, you can press it down to your heart's content over here. Because sometimes you move the card and then it ends up being not in the right place. Another little tip, flip your stamping platform out and check the text in comparison to the straight lines. That will usually tell you if you've got it straight. That's what these platforms are for. Right, flip that out. Right, I'm just going to use my anti-static pad just to make sure there's no grease or anything on the paper. Just noticing there's a little mark there actually, so I'm going to flip that over. Always check before you stamp, because you are committing to which side you're going to stamp on. Right, a little bit of anti-static powder, gets rid of any grease. And then I'm actually stamping with VersaFine in the Deep Lagoon colour, which is quite a nice rich blue. So I'm inking up my bear, stamp all over. Don't just use the same part of the pad in case there are parts of it that aren't as juicy as the others. Give it a good old go all over. And then let's go for it. So just put your stamp down. Just let it rest on the paper for a minute or two, just to let the ink really soak in to the paper. I've got my trusty clear emboss powder here. Those of you who watch my videos will know I emboss pretty much everything. Sets the ink, gives you a really nice border to colour up to, and ensures a good steady colour. Okay, I think that's probably done. Lift that up carefully. Let's have a look. It's a Boy could be a little bit thicker. Just give that a little press. There we go. I think that looks quite nice, actually, quite delicate. Right, straight away into the embossing powder. Now, I dip my stamped images. I know a lot of people spend time putting it into a little coffee percolator holder and tipping it up and everything else. I don't bother with any of that rubbish. I literally just do that. Dip it in, you get good coverage, and it's so much easier to manage in a Tupperware container. Right, straight away in with my heat gun. Apologies, this is going to be noisy. Always warm your heat gun a little bit before you start. And one of the ladies commented on one of my videos and said you shouldn't heat your heat gun so close to your cutting mat. I must admit, I've never had a problem with it, but now I'm thinking about it and thinking, I really should take that advice. So always heat with your image slightly on an angle, and don't heat with it right on top of something, because that will stop it working as well. The heat needs to go through the card. So just work your way around the image and you'll see the magic happens. It goes from being dull and powdery to being shiny and blue. Turn the image around as you do it. This is such a cute stamp set. I've made quite a few cards with this. Really simple but really cute. Make sure you give everything a good heat. And I'm noticing straight away that this Lavinia card does not curl up as much as normal. Cheaper card does. Heat the back for good measure. And then just one little final go over the front. Now just set that aside for a second just to cool down. While we do that, we will clean our stamps because we like to clean up as we go. I keep a little tub with my damp cloth in. Always clean with a cloth. Save the environment. Don't use wipes because also they leave loose fibres all over your stamps. Just give your stamp a good wipe. And keep it nice and clean. I always clean my stamps before I put them away. I know some people don't, but nothing worse than getting a stamp out, laying it on the paper to decide where to put it on your project, and then it leaves a big dirty mark all over it before you've committed. So give your stamp a good clean. Pop your cloth back in the tub and put the lid on. Keep it juicy. Let's pop that back on the stamp set. As I've said in my other videos, I always keep my stamps on the original stamp sets. I don't know why, I always remember them that way, and I always go straight to them, so it clearly works for me. Okay, let's just put that back in its packet. Once again, if anybody's interested, this stamp set is called Baby Patch Bear, and you can see the number there, FRS 642. So I'm just going to pop that one back in its case. And you can see it is a really cute little set. Okay, let's pop that to one side. I don't need my stamping platform again. Make sure my work surface is clean. There we go, and there's our stamped image. Right, what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to colour this in using some Distress ink. So I've got here my Tim Holtz from Ranger Distress Ink Speckled Egg, and I've got a little paintbrush, and I'm going to use my little mini mister for some water. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take the ink and squish it onto my pad like that. What I'm going to do then is just spray a tiny little bit of water on. Helps if you aim it in the right direction. And then I'm going to take my paintbrush. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to colour this, but I'm not going to colour the whole thing. I'm going to actually do edges, and then I'm going to pull the colour in so that I get a sort of a faded look. So to start with, I'm going to go around the edge of each section. So you can see I'm just very, very casually painting, not worrying too much how accurate it is. The nature of this stamp, it's a bear, sort of roughly sewn with seams, etc. It's not absolutely precise. So I'm just working my way around. What I'm going to do as well, I'm going to spray some water just on my mat so that I can clean my brush as I go. I've also got some kitchen roll to hand so that I can just clean it like that, because what I've just done is I've just gone over the edges here. So I'm just going to literally go over that with a little bit of water and then dab that And I've done the same there, so I'm just going to go over that and dab that as well. And that's one good thing about using these inks to colour. And then just take some water, go over where you've just coloured and pull that colour in. Use a little bit more colour and a little bit of water, and that will give you room to play with the ink that you've laid down. What you'll find is you end up with a sort of a darker edge and then a hybrid colour between the two in the middle. So you're going over the edge you've already coloured, but with more water on the brush, but thinning it down a little bit. You'll see there's quite a lot of water laying on the card, but because this is card designed to take quite a lot of water, that won't actually matter. It does look quite wet at this stage. Don't worry too much about that. But what this does give us, once it dries, is quite a nice sort of jagged, tattered effect, which suits the style of this stamp. Just keep going over it. Don't worry about these little bits, they'll come off when it dries. There we go, that's one panel done. I'm going to go in now for the next panel. This time that's a bit thin, let's take a bit more colour. Again, sort of concentrate on the edge. And that's one nice thing about this stamp. Now you could colour this in a multitude of different mediums. I've done it with pro markers, I've done it with Arteza pens, done it with distress inks before. It's a really nice stamp. Works with a nice patchwork effect as well if you do all different colours in the different panels. I sometimes do it and don't actually colour all the panels in. I'll probably leave the belly, not do the belly this time. But it's a really nice stamp because it's in sections. It really does allow you to play with it. I'm just working my way around. And where I want it darker, I'm sort of going over the edges again, just to give it a little bit more. You can also dot the brush, give you more of a jagged edge. I'm noticing some quite harsh lines here, so I'm just going to go around them. It doesn't matter too much because it's got that sort of stippled effect anyway. Right, a bit more colour, a bit more water. I'm going to just do this bottom section. But I'm going to leave this one quite pale. You can paint it how you want. This one I think I'm purposely going to leave a little bit pale. So you see we've got some quite nice texture in there. And the more you play with it, the more texture it will add. I'm thinking to highlight sort of all one side, give it a bit of a 3D look in that section. What am I going to do around the eye? I think I'm probably going to leave that white actually. And then I'm just going to give a bit more here as well. I want some sections darker so that I get a bit more contrast. Other sections lighter. So I'm just playing with it. Doesn't matter how confident you are with your brush, this sort of image, this sort of texture, you can achieve lots of different effects no matter how comfortable you are with a paintbrush. Right, I'm just going to give that a blast and dry it. I think I'm just going to add a little bit more there actually. I want a bit of a sort of a scrumbly, sort of teddy bear, scrunchy sort of finish. There we go. I'm just going to clean my brush in that water and clean it on my kitchen towel. Right, let's dry that off and have a look what that looks like. Again, dry the front and dry the back. Stops it curling up because you're heating it both ways. There we go. We can add a bit of a brush. I quite like that. I can see the lines there, but I don't actually think it really matters too much. I'm going to leave that. I quite like it. Gives it a bit of life. Give the card a bend just to get that flat again. Right, what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to dry the acrylic block and the liquid off. Keeps your work surface clean as you go. What I'm going to do now is use the same speckled egg ink, and I've got this cute Tim Holtz heart stencil, and what I'm going to do is just do a little bit of subtle stenciling behind the image with the same colour. Now the hearts on this get bigger, so I want to use that, but I don't want it absolutely precise on the edge, so I just want to go in slightly. And what I'm going to do, I'm not masking, I'm not stenciling or anything, I'm literally just going to use a bit of ink, not too much. So I'm stamping my ink pad on the ink, I'm taking it off on my work surface, and then I'm just going to go in really lightly around the image. So I'm using a circular motion, I'm just letting the ink go through around the image. Now, I mean, depending on how comfortable you are with stenciling, you could mask the image off, you could stamp another one, and you could have actually covered it to prevent any accidents, but I just think actually just go for it sometimes. But we don't want any harsh colour, so we're just dabbing it really lightly. Take that off. See that effect? It looks quite nice. Now, if you're going to use the same stencil on the other side, you kind of need to match something up. So move the stencil across so you get something to ground it with, which I think in this case is literally the two hearts at the top. So it's going to be about there. And then similarly, I'm just going to take a little bit of ink off my mat, because I don't want too much ink on the sponge. I'm just using the residue. And I'm literally just going around, really light pressure, nothing too heavy. Not covering all the stencil. There we go, how cute is that? Now I've actually got a couple of hearts here on the image, which I didn't really intend to do. So what I'm probably going to do is just take some ink and paint over there, which means I will darken that section actually. But I do want the hearts behind, so there you go, quickly resolved. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so clean up your ink. I'm going to just clean that brush again using my spritz. Keep things clean as you go, I say. Okay, just dry that again, just make sure that's dry. And then what I'm going to do, as I usually do, I'm going to take the same colour and I'm just going to edge the card. I usually do this on all my projects. It's better to not have a white edge on a card, because no matter what colour you mount it on, it always looks harsh, so I always soften the edge pretty much with one of the colours I've used in the project. So I'm just using a bit of ink and I'm just going 90 degrees straight onto the edge. And just working my way around all the corners. Now, shall I ink the edges is the question, because I do often do that. I think actually on this one I might not, because I think it actually looks quite nice just going to the white edge with the blue. Not exactly a clean and simple card, but it's quite nice sometimes to not clutter the edge too much with ink. There we go, that's looking quite nice. I'm a bit troubled by this, but I think I'm going to leave it actually. I quite like it. It just gives it texture and gives it depth. You can see some layers in there. What I might just do though is just go over that top section one more time here, just to get that effect on the corner. I want a bit of scrumble. I don't really know if that's a word, but I'm inventing it. I want it to look a little bit rough. Like he's a bit of a beloved teddy bear who's probably been through the wash a few times. There we go. Again, cleaning my brush just on a piece of kitchen towel. There we go. And then I'm just going to dab that off. That section definitely looks a little bit worn and distressed. It's often good to highlight either one side or the other of your project. Gives it a bit more depth. There we go. Right, before I forget, I'm just going to clean off my stencil. Again, using my cloth. Now think about when you clean a stencil as well. This heart stencil has lots of points going down this way. If I clean it up, I risk bending one of those and ruining my stencil. So clean it down. Always think about which way round you're moving. That's a very versatile stencil, that is. I've used that in many projects. Okay, let's give my work surface a clean. Okay, so we've now got our main image. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this area is looking a bit blank. So what I might do is actually use one of the other stamps in the set. I'm thinking about the little yacht, which is quite cute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm just going to use my acrylic block. I'm not going to stamp it in the dark blue of the teddy bear. I'm going to stamp it in the Distress Ink Speckled Egg, which will be a very light effect, but it's just enough to see it. I'm not using my stamping platform, I'm just going to do it. Just hold it again in place, regular pressure. There we go. How cute is that? Done in an instant. Again, give that a little clean. And let's pop that back on the stamp set. Hadn't really planned on doing that, but just looking at that, it just looked a little bit lacking something. And I might actually just colour it in as well. So again, I'm going to take my paintbrush, a little pool of water, and literally take the ink straight off. Actually, that's not a very delicate paintbrush. I think I need a smaller paintbrush for that. There we go, with another one. Often, if you're nervous, take a scrap of paper and just check what that's going to look like. Yeah, that's okay. Okay. Just working my way. What I might do is just add a little bit more colour at the base. Take that off and then just blend that out. It's always good to ground your colouring in something, be it a left side or a right side. Take a little bit of water and just blend that into the outline just by going around the edge. And the same with the sail. Just working your way carefully to the edge to ensure you've got that colour even. Got a little mark there of some description, but I'm just going to scribble that out. There we go. Cool. Clean your brush, which for some reason is coming out pink. I don't quite know why. There must have been something on that brush. Okay. But I quite like this sort of messy look. No noticing the pink there, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go over it. And this is the good thing about card making. Nobody else knows that you didn't intend to do that. That's the joy of it. Okay. Right. I think our little project is looking quite nice. Let me just dry that. Get rid of my scrap paper. So you can now see he's looking quite cute, Mr. Bear. And we've got our blue around the edges. So what I'm going to do with this one, because I'm going to mount it on a white card blank, I'm actually going to give it a white layer underneath. So I've just got a basic 6-inch card blank here. Fold that in half. I always line up 2 edges, and then I use my bone folder, just a standard bone folder, just to give it a press. But before I do the second one, I always turn it over and just check the alignment again. Squeeze out to that edge, and then you should have a perfectly lined card, perfectly lined up card. That works pretty much every time, so that's quite a good way of doing it. Now, this on a plain white card is going to look quite nice. I could add another layer underneath in white, or I could add another layer underneath in the blue, but actually I think I'm just quite liking it looking really virginal and really simple. So I think I'm just going to go for that. Okay, so turn that over and take your double-sided tape. If you watch my videos, you'll know I always do the bunny ears trick. So 4 pieces of double-sided tape. I do prefer tape over glue. Around all the edges, and then a piece in the middle. Now normally if you layer, obviously you don't need to be too precise about this, but in this scenario I'm actually not doing a whole load of layers. I always use tweezers. I've got these tweezers which I absolutely love. I don't even remember where I bought them, to be honest, but I would be lost without them. I always pull my tape up using my tweezers, which is a damn sight quicker than trying to do it with your fingers for sure. Turn my card around as I go. This is why it's important to keep your work surface clean as well, because at this point your card is laying down in contact with whatever is on your work surface. We don't want any mucky marks on our project. So basically now take your image, and it's best to center 2 sides and then go for the vertical, I find. So I'm just standing up while I do this, so hopefully my head's not in the way. But I'm hoping I've got that pretty much in the middle. Yep. Okay. Pull your tapes off, just run your finger lightly along each side as you do it, and that will stick the card down. And then what I usually do, I usually take my bone folder and just go along properly. There we go, there's our little bear. He is quite distressed there, but actually I sort of quite like it. With his little sailboat in the middle, I think that's quite cute. That would be quite a nice card to give to somebody with a newborn baby. And obviously the products we've used today, the Tim Holtz Distress Ink Speckled Egg, basic acrylic platform. I use my blending brush with a domed pad on it. The stencil, which is from Stampers Anonymous, that's Tim Holtz also. The VersaFine blue in Deep Lagoon. A couple of paintbrushes, basically. Double-sided tape, bone folder, tweezers, and the stamp set, which is from Woodware, which is FRS 642 Baby Patch Bear. There you go. There's today's project. Thanks for watching. If you like my cards, please like and subscribe. Also, I sell my cards on Etsy. It's Crafts by John UK. And also you can find me on Instagram and TikTok with the same handle. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.